At first, it looks like the aftermath of a quiet disaster. Hundreds of faces have been arranged before a Japanese altar. Porcelain brides in fading silk, warriors in lacquered armor, round-eyed children, wooden figures with flaking paint, bears whose fur has been flattened by years of being held. Some are immaculate. Others are missing a shoe, an eye, or a patch of hair. No person has died, yet a memorial service is about to begin. The families did not bring them for an exorcism. The ceremony is quieter than that, built around gratitude rather than fear. They have come because placing a face that watched a child grow inside a garbage bag can feel less like cleaning a house than betraying a witness. A daughter received a Hina doll when she was small. A boy once slept beside a stuffed animal. A figure stood in the family room through birthdays, marriages, illnesses, and funerals. Years later, the child has moved away. The parents are aging, the house must be emptied, and the doll is still looking back with the same expression. The rite is commonly called Ningyo Kuyo. It is often translated as a doll funeral, although memorial service, offering, or ritual farewell comes closer to its full meaning. The dolls may be placed before Buddhist monks who chant sutras and invite families to offer incense. At a Shinto shrine, priests may purify them and recite formal Narito prayers of gratitude and farewell. In some places, fire waits outside. In others, only a paper figure or a wooden prayer stick will burn. The doll itself may later leave in the truck of a specialist disposal company. The disposal truck is the detail that matters. If the ceremony were simply about destroying a dangerous object, the fire would be the point. But sometimes the object survives its own funeral. Plastic skin, synthetic hair, foam, paint, metal, and glass cannot all be sent into an open flame without consequence. The prayer still matters because the real transformation has already happened. Before the rite, this was someone's doll. After the rite, the memory remains, but the obligation to protect its body can end. Its roots are old. Its modern scale is not. Human-shaped substitutes once carried illness and impurity away from the living, but today's large public memorials expanded mainly during the 20th century. They grew alongside mass, produced toys, department stores, smaller homes, aging households, and a doll industry that could create more treasured objects than later generations wanted to inherit. The ritual wears ancient robes, but it answers a sharply modern problem: how to turn something filled with memory back into matter without pretending that it meant nothing. The Japanese word Ningyo is written with two characters that mean human and form. That name places the object close to a border. A chair resembles a chair, a bowl resembles a bowl, a doll resembles us. It has a front and a back, a head that can be touched, clothing that can be straightened, eyes that seem to meet our own even when we know perfectly well that they see nothing. The resemblance is artificial, but the response it draws from us is not. People lower their voices around sleeping infants and sleeping pets. Sometimes they also lower their voices while packing a doll that has occupied one room for 50 years. In Japan, human-shaped figures have never belonged to a single category. Ningyo can be toys, festival displays, theater puppets, regional crafts, gifts, or works of art, while related ritual effigies such as hitogata and katashiro can function as substitutes in purification rites. A Hina doll represents an imagined imperial court during the March festival for girls. A warrior doll displayed around Children's Day carries hopes for strength and healthy growth. A kokoshi may recall a region, a journey, or the person who gave it. An ichimatsu doll can be dressed, embraced, displayed, and passed through a family. A cheap stuffed animal and a masterfully carved figure are materially worlds apart, yet either can become difficult to discard if enough life has happened beside it. Long before these figures acquired silk robes and glass eyes, Japan used much simpler human forms. Archaeologists have found wooden hitogata dating to the late 7th century. Cut from thin material in the outline of a body, a hitogata was not designed to be loved like a toy. It was a substitute. Illness, ritual impurity, misfortune, or unseen danger could be symbolically transferred from a person to this substitute body. It was then disposed of, most characteristically by being cast into a river or another body of water, carrying away what the person needed to lose. The logic is severe and elegant. A substitute can go where a person cannot. Depending on the rite, it can enter a river or meet the flame while symbolically carrying away ritual impurity. That does not mean every ancient participant held the same belief or imagined a literal substance moving into wood or paper. Rituals do not require a single private theory. They give a community an action to perform when danger, guilt, or uncertainty cannot be held in the hands. The small figure made an invisible burden visible and therefore movable. Water still carries this older logic. On the 3rd of March, at Awashima Shrine on the coast of Wakayama, Hina dolls and paper substitutes bearing wishes are placed into plain wooden boats. After purification, the boats are sent toward the sea. The shrine's present public boat ceremony began in 1962. Since around 1965, the boats and dolls have been recovered and burned on shore rather than left in the ocean. The symbolic departure remains. The scene is beautiful enough to look like a celebration of spring, while beneath it lies the old geometry of removal, a human shape, a burden entrusted to it, and a current leading away from the community. Hina Nagashi is related to the history of dolls and purification. It is not the standard ending of every modern doll memorial. It preserves the older pattern, a human shape, a burden entrusted to it, and a current leading away. Another history was unfolding beside these rites. More than 1,000 years ago, aristocratic girls played with small figures and miniature household objects. The early 11th century tale of Genji refers to Hina Asobi, a form of doll play recognizable across the distance of centuries. Children gave figures roles, arranged their rooms, and practiced a miniature social world. One tradition treated a human shape as a vessel that could carry danger away. The other treated it as a character that could remain close. Over time, elements of seasonal purification and elite doll play met within the festival. Now called Hina Matsuri, the custom of displaying Hina dolls on the 3rd of March took shape in the early Edo period, during the 17th century. It first flourished among court and warrior households, and then spread more widely as the displays became increasingly elaborate. An imperial couple, attendants, musicians, miniature furniture, lacquered objects, carriages, lamps, and food vessels arranged across red steps. A display could be a condensed vision of order and good fortune. Families set it out in early spring, wished for a girl's health and growth, and packed it away again after the festival. That annual movement matters. The dolls emerge from darkness, occupy the house, and disappear back into boxes. Silk is brushed. Tiny objects are returned to their proper places. A missing piece is noticed. A child who once had to be lifted to see the top tier eventually arranges the display herself, then perhaps leaves home while her parents continue the ritual. The dolls do not record time by changing. They record it by staying the same. Their painted faces become fixed points against which a family can see how much everyone else has moved. A festival doll can therefore carry two lives at once. It represents the future a family hoped to give a child, and it witnesses the future that actually arrived. Good health may have followed, or illness. The family may have remained together, or scattered. The daughter may treasure the display, feel indifferent to it, or live in an apartment where there is no room for 7 tiers of inherited ceremony. None of those outcomes cancels the original gift. It only makes the final decision harder. The object has completed its ceremonial role, but its emotional role has no obvious expiration date. This is the moment when a doll begins to resist the ordinary routes available to unwanted things. A table can be sold, clothes can be donated, books can be boxed without turning their faces toward the person who closes the lid. A doll may also be sold or donated, of course, and many are. Yet an intensely personal figure can feel unsuitable for a stranger, especially when it was chosen for one child, displayed for one family's hopes, or inherited after a parent's death. It has become too intimate for the second-hand market and too unnecessary for the home. It remains suspended between family and waste. The face intensifies that suspension. Human beings are expert readers of faces, including faces that are not alive. 2 dots and a curved line are enough to create an expression. A carefully made doll goes much further. Its gaze follows no one, but the viewer supplies attention. Its mouth says nothing, but memory supplies a voice. Damage that would be trivial on another object can resemble injury. Hacking it face down feels different from stacking a plate. The material has not changed category by itself. The human imagination has moved it closer to personhood. Folklore supplies a darker possibility. Tsukumogami, old possessions said to acquire agency after long use. Horror stories add dolls with growing hair and moving eyes. But neither explains Ningyo Kuyo on its own. A family does not need to expect revenge before a painted face becomes difficult to discard. Fear may be present for some people. Gratitude, attachment, responsibility, and guilt are often enough. Field research on doll memorials has found exactly that ambiguity. Participants rarely insisted that a literal soul was trapped inside the object. Some could mock the idea and still refuse to place the doll in household waste. One woman was clearing possessions after her mother's death and no longer wanted traditional dolls in her modern home. Another did not want to leave useful but unwanted dolls for her children to deal with. Their problem was not doctrine. It was the sense that direct disposal would be abrupt, disrespectful, and unfinished. The ceremony supplies an ending where ordinary language fails. A person can know that wood is wood and still remember who touched it. She can reject ghosts and still feel watched by a painted face. She can understand that the doll has no nervous system and still apologize when it falls. None of these reactions has to be solved into belief or disbelief. Ningyo Kuyo gives them a form. Carry the doll to a recognized place. Place it among others. Hear words spoken over it. Express thanks and leave without taking it home. There is no national script. Buddhist temples may chant sutras and receive incense. Shinto priests may purify the dolls and recite Norito. Some services are private, while others gather thousands of figures at an annual ceremony. Each institution sets its own rules for cases, stands, accessories, and burning. What repeats is the passage itself: reception, recognition, gratitude, separation. Take one ordinary Hina doll. Its owner is unknown, but its body already carries a history. Dust lies beneath its crown. One shoulder is paler, where sunlight reached the fabric. The painted face is almost untouched because it was made to be displayed rather than handled. Its glass case has protected it, but the case may be refused at the temple door. The family removes the screen, lamps, wooden base, and accessories. Only the human form is accepted. Even the rules reveal what the rite considers essential. The doll might arrive in someone's arms. It might also arrive by parcel service. That ordinary cardboard box creates one of the most revealing scenes in the entire custom. Japan's postal and delivery networks now carry figures from homes across the country to religious institutions and professional associations. An owner fills in a form, writes a name and address, identifies the type of doll, seals the package, and pays a fee. Ancient ritual language travels through a barcode. The final farewell begins with a shipping label. The Japan Doll Association operates a year. Round service linked to an annual ceremony at Tokyo Daijingu. The accepted package may contain Hina dolls, warrior figures, puppets, ceramic figures, kokeshi, Western-style dolls, or stuffed animals, while cases and display furniture are left behind. Inside the box goes a paper slip called a hitogata, fuda, recording the type of doll and the sender's name and address. After the ceremony, a postcard tells the sender that the farewell has been completed. Even the kit echoes an older ritual vocabulary, now traveling inside a parcel toward a ceremony the owner may never see. When the dolls are assembled, individuality and mass appear at the same time. From a distance, they form rows of faces, an astonishing visual field up close. Every object hints at a history that can no longer be recovered. One bear has a repaired paw, one doll wears a hand-sewn garment, one plastic figure is still bright from a decade spent inside a cupboard. A temple cannot preserve every biography, and the service does not try. It recognizes that each object arrived through a relationship, even when the details of that relationship remain private. Then sound takes over. A bell, a conch, a drum, the measured rise and fall of sutras, or the formal cadence of a Shinto prayer changes the atmosphere around objects that were silent a moment earlier. Families bow. Incense drifts in front of faces made from clay, wood, cloth, vinyl, and fur. The words may address enlightenment, purification, gratitude, or safe departure, depending on the place. The dolls do not visibly respond. That stillness is part of the power. The owners have spent years interpreting the dolls. Now the ceremony speaks so that they no longer have to. At Shokoji, a Buddhist temple in Tokyo, the explanation is unusually direct. The priest does not claim certainty about whether dolls possess souls. He suggests that what rests inside a doll may instead be the owner's heart, the memories of the child who confided in it, the parent who chose it, and the person who later became unable to throw it away. In that reading, the service is not rescuing a supernatural prisoner. It is addressing the part of a human life that has remained attached to matter. That interpretation reaches beyond Japan. Almost everyone has owned something whose market value was smaller than the cost of losing it. A worn jacket, a dead phone holding old messages, a chipped cup from someone no longer alive. Most cultures understand heirlooms. The unusual feature of Ningyo Kuyo is not emotional attachment itself. It is the availability of a public, repeatable procedure for ending attachment. The ceremony does not require proof that the doll is alive. It only requires the relationship to have been real. Once the prayers end, a small but decisive change has occurred. Before the service, the doll remains someone's responsibility. It demands storage, protection, explanation, and eventually a decision after the service. Those obligations can be released. The memory is not erased. The owner is simply no longer required to keep its physical container forever. This is why the word funeral is useful, even when it is imperfect. Funerals do not make a life meaningless. They mark the point at which care for a living body becomes care for a memory. The Japanese term Kuyo also prevents the comparison from becoming too narrow. The Buddhist term ultimately derives from the Sanskrit puja and centers on offerings, reverence, and memorial care. Kuyo can involve honoring the dead, but it is also extended to beings and things that have served, protected, or accompanied human life. Japan has memorial services for needles, brushes, combs, scissors, eyeglasses, and other tools. A broken needle may be placed into soft tofu at Kuyo, receiving gentleness after a working life spent piercing cloth. The object is thanked, not because every participant believes it thinks, but because human labor has been organized through it. Dolls are especially powerful members of this larger family of things, because they have always been designed for relationship. A brush performs a task. A doll performs a presence. Children speak for it, feed it imaginary meals, assign it fear and courage, and place it near the pillow at night. Adults display other dolls as embodiments of protection, refinement, family continuity, or seasonal order. The figure becomes a mirror that does not reflect the body, but reflects the attention given to it. When that attention must end, a simple trash schedule can feel emotionally illiterate. Nowhere is the layered history clearer than at Hokkyoji in Kyoto, often called the doll temple. For generations, abbesses connected to the imperial family lived there, and the temple received precious dolls from the palace. Its collection includes figures of historical importance. That sounds like the beginning of an ancient memorial tradition, but the public story is much more recent. The temple began opening doll exhibitions in 1957. A Kyoto Doll Trade Association helped establish its doll mound in 1959. The stone memorial that now looks timeless belongs to the post-war era. Every the 14th of October, Hokkyoji holds its grand memorial service. Dolls brought that morning are arranged together. Participants may attend the service and offer incense. Traditional dance or music has been offered in some years, although the temple's current notice lists the October observance as the memorial service only. The temple also accepts dolls during the rest of the year, including deliveries from within Japan. Owners must remove cases and accessories. The figures receive daily temple services until a later ohayage, or ritual burning. People may also write their names on doll-shaped sheets of paper. Part of the ash from those paper forms is placed in the doll mound. Hokkyoji reveals the central historical twist. The symbolic materials are old, but religiously mixed. Buddhist Kuyo, incense, and sutra chanting coexist with the broader syncretic logic of the human-shaped substitute and with ritual burning. The organized scale, public schedule, trade participation, postal delivery, and pressure of accumulated possessions are modern. Scholars note that while precedents for honoring objects existed earlier, many specialized mass memorials for inanimate things expanded recently. The Tokyo Association of Toy and Doll Shopkeepers began sponsoring a doll service only in 1958. This does not expose the ceremony as fake. Every living tradition is assembled from older language and newer need. Weddings adopt technologies their ancestors never saw. Funerals use printed photographs, recorded music, online notices, and cards without becoming emotionally false. The growth of Ningyo Kuyo coincided with post-war mass production, commercial sponsorship, and a growing need to clear accumulated possessions from homes and across generations. A ritual can have an industry around it and still answer a genuine human need. The people who make and sell dolls have an obvious place in that system. A craft industry benefits when its objects are treated as meaningful rather than disposable. Temples and shrines may request a memorial fee or offering based on the number, size, or volume of dolls. Delivery companies carry the boxes, professional waste firms complete some of the physical disposal commerce, religion, public culture, and private grief overlap. Reducing the service to a sales strategy would miss the participants who arrive with tears or relief. Pretending money plays no role would miss how modern traditions survive. Both realities can occupy the same altar. Modern housing makes the conflict visible. A full Hina display can include multiple tiers, figures, lamps, screens, furniture, and boxes large enough to claim a closet. Preserving one has always required storage. Today, the burden is often sharpened when adult children live elsewhere, in smaller homes, or in households that do not plan to continue the festival. Parents may keep the dolls because the gift still represents their daughter, even after she says she cannot take them. The object waits until illness, relocation, or death forces a decision that affection postponed. Clearing a parent's home is particularly difficult because possessions become the last crowded audience to a vanished life. The person is gone, but her decisions remain in cupboards. A doll can hold several generations at once: the grandparent who paid for it, the parent who displayed it, the child for whom it was intended. Throwing it away may feel like overruling all three. Keeping it may transfer the same burden to the next household. The memorial service offers a third action. It does not ask the family to deny the past or preserve every object from it. It gives them permission to complete the past. That permission explains why some ceremonies have become more popular even as formal religious belief changes. Practice can matter without a detailed creed. Many people in Japan may visit shrines at New Year, hold Buddhist funerals, celebrate Christmas, and still describe themselves as not especially religious. Ningyo Kuyo belongs comfortably within that practical landscape. One does not need to sign a statement about the metaphysics of dolls. One needs only to feel that gratitude should be expressed before separation. In one 2007 study among people attending a doll memorial at Mondo Yakujin Tokoji, younger respondents scored higher on an animism scale than older respondents. The study discussed television, animation, and games as possible influences, not proven causes. Character merchandise, virtual companions, and social robots provide a broader modern context in which relationships across the boundary between person and thing can be imagined. A child may know that a character was manufactured in millions of copies while experiencing one particular copy as irreplaceable. Mass production creates identical bodies. Memory makes one of them singular. This is where the gaze of the doll returns. A human-shaped object is made in a factory, sold in a box, and purchased like any commodity. Then it enters a home and accumulates touches, names, repairs, smells, photographs, and stories. It becomes inalienable, something not easily exchanged, because its value depends on who lived with it. At the memorial, the process runs backward. Prayer, gratitude, and formal separation remove the private claim. The doll can become material again. The factory made it a product. The family made it a companion. The ritual makes it releasable. For centuries, fire offered the clearest image of that release. Wood, paper, straw, and silk could disappear in a controlled blaze. Flames transformed a visible body into smoke and ash. There was no ambiguity about whether the object would return to the house. At shrines, otakiage may burn old talismans and accepted objects after purification and narito. Related ritual burning is also practiced at some Buddhist temples. The irreversible material ending matched the emotional ending. Then chemistry complicated the symbol. A contemporary doll may contain vinyl, synthetic fibers, polyurethane foam, adhesives, batteries, metal mechanisms, treated paint, and plastic of uncertain composition. Burn them together, and the graceful image of return becomes dark smoke and toxic residue. Fire codes and environmental controls also limit what religious sites can burn, and where a ritual developed for organic materials had to meet objects designed by petrochemical industry. Different institutions responded differently. Some still conduct on-site ritual burning for accepted dolls under controlled conditions, some separate materials. Some burn only paper substitutes, owners' names, or wooden prayer sticks, while representative dolls remain beside the fire. Some transfer the collection to specialist disposal firms after prayers are complete. Valuable pieces may be preserved, while ordinary ones enter regulated waste systems. There is no honest sentence beginning with, "In Japan, all dolls are eventually burned." The final route depends on the place, the material, local rules, and the condition of the object. A 2012 field observation at Shoryakuji in Nara made the change almost theatrical. A conch announced the beginning. Monks performed music and recited Buddhist scripture while visitors offered incense. Representative figures stood near the pyre, including 5 Ichimatsu dolls, a seated Hina doll, Western-style dolls, and stuffed characters when the fire was lit. The displayed dolls did not enter it. Instead, wooden goma sticks bearing participants' names burned in their presence. The object watched the owner's symbolic link become smoke. That reversal is more profound than it first appears. The old model imagined the figure carrying something away for the person. Here the owner's name goes into the fire while the doll remains. Anthropologist Fabio Gigi interprets this as the burning of the owner-object link, rather than the doll's body. That is an analytical reading of the 2012 rite. Not a universal doctrine stated by Shoryakuji, but it may explain part of the ceremony's emotional force. The sacred action ends, and practical disposal can begin. The value of the rite was never limited to making matter disappear. It marked the moment when care could end without becoming contempt. At Daiho Hachimangu in Ibaraki, the shrine describes purifying dolls, voicing gratitude through prayer, and then conducting otakiage with sacred fire, although weather can delay the burning. At Meiji Jingu in Tokyo, the modern annual Ningyo Kancha Sai, first held in 1989 and organized by the Ningyo Nikancha Surukai, is framed not as a funeral, but as a festival of gratitude. The vocabulary changes from place to place: memorial, appreciation, ascension, purification, farewell. Each name emphasizes a different part of the passage. Together, they show a tradition still adapting, rather than a relic being reenacted for visitors. The adaptation has extended beyond figures made of wood, cloth, and plastic. After Sony ended official repair support for the original generations of its Aibo robotic dog, and some units became irreparable, the electronics repair company Fun arranged Buddhist services for hundreds of them at Kofukuji in Chiba. Rows of robot dogs faced the altar while a priest chanted sutras. Some of the non-repairable Aibos then served as parts donors, helping other units continue functioning. The scene looked futuristic and ancient at once, a robot receiving mortuary care, then entering a practical cycle of repair. Aibo does not prove that Japan believes machines possess human souls. It proves that companionship can be technologically manufactured and still become emotionally real. Owners named the robots, spoke to them, watched them learn routines, and experienced mechanical failure as a kind of death. The ritual did not need to settle whether software could feel. It recognized that humans had felt something. Dolls operate on the same principle with less machinery. The animation happens not only inside the object, if it happens there at all, but in the relationship around it. That range of motives is easy to flatten from the outside. The custom is neither proof that every Japanese person believes every object has a soul, nor an empty modern business dressed in ancient language. Participants may be skeptical, devout, embarrassed, relieved, grieving, practical, or some shifting combination of all six. They may fear bad luck, honor a parent's wishes, clear a room, or simply want to say thank you. The ceremony is wide enough to receive them without demanding that they agree. Its most important work may be the conversion of guilt into gratitude. Guilt says, "I am abandoning this." Gratitude says, "This accompanied me, and its role is complete." The physical action can be nearly identical. The owner still carries the doll out of the house and does not bring it back. Yet the story surrounding that action changes. A life cannot keep every object it has loved. Without endings, care becomes storage, storage becomes burden, and burden is passed to someone who never chose it. The rite interrupts that chain. Nothing in the ceremony restores the empty shelf at home to innocence. Dust may outline the place where a case stood for decades. The room may look larger and feel poorer. A postcard may eventually arrive confirming that prayers were offered. The owner may never know exactly when the doll was burned, dismantled, preserved, or collected as regulated waste. That uncertainty is not necessarily a failure. The family has already performed the act it needed to perform. It entrusted the ending to a place authorized to hold it. The rows can look eerie at first, hundreds of human faces without a single human movement. Stay with them. And another crowd begins to appear. The children who grew up, the parents who packed the boxes, the relatives clearing a house, and the artisans who painted every eyelid and tied every miniature sleeve. Each doll is the last visible point of a relationship whose other half has left the frame. When the service concludes, the chants stop, incense thins, priests and staff begin the ordinary work of moving objects, sorting materials, closing cartons, and cleaning the space. The transformation does not announce itself with a change in the doll's expression. The same eyes remain open, the same hands remain fixed. What has changed is the person who can now walk away. Somewhere, a cupboard is empty for the first time in half a century. No supernatural event has occurred. An obligation has simply reached its proper end. Some of Japan's early ritual hitogata were used to carry away impurity and misfortune. Modern doll memorials echo that logic in a different form. The doll may no longer bear disease toward a river. It bears memory toward a temple, a shrine, a fire, or a final sealed truck. It carries the burden of separation just far enough for the owner to release it. A funeral for a doll is not a declaration that the doll was human. It is an admission that the relationship was. The figure does not have to be alive for the farewell to be real.